Hey everybody, welcome back to Ben from the Bunker. We're going to be continuing the series on how to make a comic book. Sorry there was such a gap between the two videos. There's been some other issues and stuff that's come up. But we're back and we're going to talk about today about art and how to do the art in a comic book. It's a little different than just drawing some pictures down, so we're going to talk about that today.
Well, you know my name is Simon, and I like to do drawings. I like to draw all day long, so come and do drawings with me. Come and do drawings with me.
So obviously the first step is to draw the book. Now, some people do layouts ahead of time, some people do not do that ahead of time. Make sure that when you draw the book that you are leaving enough room for your word balloons, anything else that you're going to put in the book later after you do the actual pencils. That's what this part is called. You're going to be doing this part in pencil, or if you're doing it digitally, we'll talk about the difference a little bit after we talk about what the next step is. But make sure that you're doing this part in pencils, and it's your lighter thing, and you don't have to do as much detail at this stage, or you can do as much as you want at this stage. It really depends on you as an artist.
Draw this or something?
I ain't kidding, I'm also the colorist. The guy next to me draws it, but we both came up with the characters. Next.
Does that mean you ink it?
Well, it means that Holden draws the pictures in pencil, and then he gives it to me to go over in ink. Next.
So basically, you just trace.
It's not tracing, alright? I add depth and shading to give the image more definition. Only then does the drawing truly take shape.
No.
So here you can see the difference between a pencil page and an inked page. So now a little bit more into the how-to for these two different starts. If you're just starting out and you're drawing your own book and inking your own book, then you're going to be obviously doing everything yourself. So there's two different ways to do it. There's the physical way and there's the digital way. There are pros and cons to each. It's kind of up to you to decide. Physical, you're going to do it on 11 by 17 bristle board pages. You're going to use pencils and obviously an inking, whatever you want to do the inking along with that. And the pros to this is that you don't have to buy a lot of equipment. Now, you will need an 11 by 17 scanner or access to an 11 by 17 scanner to make the files digitally for both coloring, if that's a route you decide to go to, or for printing, because that's the way things are done now. Another pro to doing things with physical is then you do have physical pages that if the book takes off, or even not necessarily if it if you get just the right fan, might want to pay for that physical page. Now, there is digital. Some people use the thing Sketchbook Pro, use a Cintiq, and these things all do cost money. However, if you make a mistake in your physical, not with pencils necessarily, but when you're inking, that's a lot harder to fix than if you can just undo in your digital. Also, you don't have to worry about scanning things in. It also depends on kind of how you like to work. Also, if you have physical, you need probably a little bit larger space to work, and you need a designated space with the inks and the pencils and everything like that. With digital, you can sometimes more easily take it with you wherever you're going. But also you want to make sure whenever you're doing anything in comics, backing things up as you're working, because you don't want to lose anything that you're working on. So those are the kind of two ways to go on it, two different formats, physical, digital. I personally don't have a preference either way. My first book, Judges, was done physically. Actually, Judges, Kanisha, and Gunwork were all done physically, but then Botched and the stuff we did with Tales from the Cryptic Closet were done digitally. So it's kind of like I said, up to you for your own desire and what you seek to do. Also, if you don't have the money to put in right away to get this stuff to do digital, you might want to try to start physical. Just make sure that you have access to that scanner.
Color. color.
The next stage is adding colors. Now, this is not necessary for indie books necessarily. There's a lot of indie books out there that do not have colors, that just do the black and white, or even just do a color, cover and then black and white interiors. It kind of depends on the flow of your book. We did black and white for Tales from the Cryptic Closet. I mean, there was some, like blood splatters around, but the actual interior art works well with a horror story sometimes. Superhero stories, you're gonna want to be a little careful with that because color is normally a big part of the story for superheroes. So it's kind of up to you whether you decide to do coloring in the book. Now, if you are going to decide to do coloring is almost always anymore done digitally. And that cuts down on a lot of time and things like that. I would say there are classes you can take or tutorials you can learn how to do colors using Photoshop or some of the other programs that people use to do colors. I would try to learn how to do it that way instead of just trying to figure it out yourself, because it is a little more complicated than just coloring it in and things like that. It takes some time to learn, and a lot of people don't notice the colors of a book until they're bad. Bad colors can really throw off a book, and like anything else, good colors really accentuate it. Unfortunately, a lot of times the colorists don't get credit for how well they did with that. We think of artists in a book or writers of a book, but we don't recognize the colorists as much as probably they deserve to get noticed. Again, if you're doing everything yourself, then you're a one-stop shop, and that's great. That's going to save you money and time. So, that's the deal with coloring. Again, coloring not necessary. It's kind of up to you to decide. Also, remember, printing a colored book is going to be more expensive than printing a book with interior black and whites. So finally, we're going to add in the letters for the book. The letters are important because obviously you need to read what the characters are saying and, your captions or whatever. Hopefully you did pay attention in your pencil section and you left room for your letters in there, or else you're going to be struggling, and you don't want to make them so small that people can't read them. Letters are another thing that people really only notice if they're bad. And you don't want to have a book with great art, great colors, and bad lettering so people can't read the book. Now, you may have been saying through this whole process that I'm not artistic. I don't have a good grasp on how to design things on computers. I'm right there with you. And for my books, I have hired or collaborated with other people on doing these other steps that I've talked about today. So in the next video in the series, we're going to talk about how you can find those people, how you can get those people to work with you, and the steps you need to take to put a team together if you are simply the writer and creator of the book. So this has been Ben from the Bunker. As always, read indie comics and support your local comic book store.